Hello, everyone. This is Jay Izzo, host of A New Direction. You may know me. I'm also a business life coach, speaker, author, and I am a huge fan of audiobooks. I find that the majority of people I talk to prefer audiobooks. It's because they can consume them faster. They can read them, and then they could reading. They can listen while they're commuting, working out, or whatever busy work they may be doing. And so I also love them, though, as an author, speaker, and a coach, because I want people to listen to my books because it gives the listener an opportunity to hear me, hear how I sound, my delivery, my tone, and they get an expectation of what they can expect if they hire me in whatever I do. And so I really love audiobooks. Now, here's something. If you're an author, right now, I have a little fun FYI, right, for your information. Well, maybe we could call it party line. You know, when the party gets dull, you want a little information to bring up the party. Well, here's some information that may help liven up that party for you. Did you know that audiobooks are the fastest growing segment in the book industry, boasting double-digit growth in sales, production, and consumption for more than 10 straight years? Okay, you probably didn't know that. That will liven up a party. I promise you it will. Did you know that audiobook sales exceed $5 billion in 2023 and are projected to surpass $7.5 billion in 2024? Okay, now if the first one didn't liven up the party, this one will, all right? And then finally, did you know that 38% of Americans listen to audiobooks in 2023 and 57% of audiobook listeners are between the ages of 18 and 44? Think about this for a second. If you're a coach or like me, or you're in the speaking industry, it's probably somewhere in a range that you're going to be, that your client is there. Now, I'm also going to say this because I know this statistic as well, that there is another segment that's just a little bit older than the 44 range that is also growing at a very rapid pace. And so if you have that older client, I'm telling you, audiobooks is where it is at. Now, if you're like me, and I'm been limited in how I can promote, sell, and leverage my audiobooks as an author. Well, today I'm here with three guys who've helped revolutionize the audiobook marketplace with a new platform called Zoundy. Yes, I said Zoundy with a Z, okay? First is Cory Dana. He's an audiobook industry trailblazer, publisher, producer, distributor of more than 7,500 titles. Cory, with other members of his team, have spent 20 years in the audiobook industry. Wave your hand, Cory, or at least say hello for those who are listening.
Hey, Jay, thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Then there's Dana Robinson. He is an IP attorney and private equity manager with over 20 years of audiobook industry experience. Dana worked with Cory from venture to exit with eChristian. Dana, raise your hand and say hello to the audience.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Jay. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. And then finally, Jared Kurtz is a publishing industry innovator with over 2 decades of experience working with traditional, hybrid, and indie publishers and authors. Jared, say hello to everybody out there.
Hi, everyone.
Awesome. I love that. All right. Together, they've created Zoundy, which I'm excited about because my books are going up there, and I'm so excited about this because an option that's actually going to help us as authors. This innovative audiobook marketing, fulfillment, and sales pro platform. So if you're an author, wannabe author, and you're looking for the best alternative, I'm telling you, I really believe in this platform, which is why I'm doing this. So, fellas, thanks for joining us today. So who wants to take this? What is Zoundy exactly? Who wants to take that question?
Zoundy is an audiobook marketing platform at its infancy. I mean, that's really what its bread and butter is. You can also sell off the platform and do other activities off the platform, but it's designed to complement audiobooks no matter where they're for sale via retail, whether it's iTunes, Spotify, or any other platform. Zoundy is designed to help market the audiobooks that really aren't selling on those platforms. So at its core, it's a marketing tool.
Okay. So I'll let you guys decide who wants to take this. How is Zoundy different from, like, let's say Audible, iTunes, the other retail platforms that sell audiobooks?
I can take that. So Zoundy allows you to sell your audiobooks, which is one piece of the platform, but it's not the primary. It's not the primary goal. The Zoundy fills in a lot of gaps that authors have in marketing their books. So when you're marketing your book, you're hoping to get more reviews to legitimize your book so that people see it and think, oh, this is something I should listen to, right? They typically say you should have at least 100 reviews. Zoundy will help you get more reviews. It will help you do short-term giveaways to get action and to build your customer list. And so build your email list, things like that. A bunch of things that all authors want to do, need to do, and there just isn't really a mechanism. And so Zoundy helps with all of that.
Yeah, I think we feel limited, of what we can and can't do, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like we as authors who publish books in different formats, especially the Audible format, the audio format, what happens is it's like, okay, we throw it up there, and then it becomes like, boiling spaghetti, right? We throw the book up there and throw the spaghetti against the wall, hoping that somehow somebody finds it and sticks, which is what excites me about this. So how did Zoundy come into fruition? Who would like to take that one?
I can start with that. Well, go ahead. We've been thinking about these tools. So I was an audiobook publisher for a long time. I've been marketing audiobooks for about 24 years. And authors would come to me all the time and say, hey, how can I market my audiobook? And a lot of times the answer is there really isn't any way. You put it at these different platforms and there aren't really a lot of tools. And along the way, I just started thinking, hey, there's got to be something that helps authors market their audiobooks, helps them give them away in a frictionless way and get a name and sell the book at higher margins, all of these problems, or bundle the book with other products, all these things that authors want to do to sell more print. And so it was kind of swirling around in my head for a few years. And then it was probably a couple of years ago when we built a beta. I met Jared, Dana got on board, and we basically went and tested this with an author with a minimum viable product, a super beta version. And we had 5,000 people come and give their email address and listen to a book. And I just got a lot of authors reaching out saying, how can I do this? This is really interesting.
Yeah, what I was going to say as well, it kind of relates to the last question about the origin story of the business. We were on the three of us were on a call with a top author, someone who's sold millions of copies, and they sell high value products and they want to give away their books. And we're trying to explain the platform, and I just asked, well, how do you give away your audiobook right now? And they're like, well, we have to put it into a Google Drive or a Dropbox in files. And then we send the link to somebody who signs up on a landing page. So this is, this is the only real option. And one of the sort of motivating factors when Cory engineered the product and we sat down with our CTO and said, here's what we want this to do. We want to let you as a coach, Jay, take that audiobook and deliver it through an Audible-like app, but get an email address from whoever that is, the way that you would expect to if you're going to give them a Dropbox link. But then they're in your book, they're in an app. It's an elegant experience that they'll find other products in there as well, obviously. So there's more discovery of your book by other users that are in there from some other coach. So it's a tool that's super practical because there isn't an easy way for any of us with an audiobook to get it into somebody's hands other than to blindly send them to Dropbox and Google Drive links.
Yeah, one of the frustrations for me is if I'm giving away a book, I have to on the other platform that I'm not going to mention that starts with an A. What I have to do is I have to use one of my credits to purchase the book and use it as a gift or I have to pay for my own book and give it away as a gift. That's a little frustrating to me.
And you only get a handful of credits.
Well, right. If I don't, they'll pile up if you're not using them. But I'm a pretty avid consumer of audio books, as well as reading them because I read a book a week for my show. So I'm an avid consumer. So yeah, I mean, you run out of credits. Well, then you're making a purchase. It's frustrating because why am I purchasing my own book to give it away? Right. That's the problem. Which leads me to the question here is how is Zoundy different from the other audiobook marketing platforms? And I think we started that right here by me saying that this is very different. So who wants to talk about the differences from other audiobook marketing platforms?
Well, let me start there just because I I use Zoundy every single day. I mean, the second this thing came onto the market, from my role as a book marketer, I've been using it every single day. The way it's different is all of the tools and functionalities that are available to the author or publisher in any genre, by the way, not just, for professional speakers, to be able to actually reach different audiences in different ways. Almost every other platform that's out there allows you to simply sell your book and maybe gift your book if that's available. What Zoundy allows you to do are so many different things, and I'll just go through a small handful of them. Number one, you can customize your content. So let's say there's a person or group that you want to give a few chapters away to. You can do that. Let's say you want to customize your content and you've done a talk somewhere and you've recorded that talk and you want to slide that recording into the front of your audiobook and gift that as a customized version of your audiobook to the audience that you spoke to. You can do that. Let's say you want to cross-market titles and throw the first chapter of another book at the end of your book, or even throw in some type of, commercial for another product or service you're offering at the end of your book. You can cross-market titles, you can cross-market products, you can customize your content, you can give it away in any capacity, 1 chapter, 4 chapters, 8 chapters. There are so many different things you can do with your audiobook on Zoundy that you literally can't do anywhere else. Maybe you can do one of these things in different platforms, but you can't do any of them collectively in one place. And that's just a small number of things. I mean, from a marketing standpoint, I'll give you 2 quick examples of the way I know my clients are using Zoundy. One example is reaching out with influencers. So I have a person with a financial audiobook, and they want to get as many people to read it as possible. So we've reached out because they have other products and services they're also trying to sell. And Dana touched on this, but every time someone downloads your book on Zoundy, you, as the Zoundy subscriber, get their name and their email. You don't get that on any other platform or almost any other platform. So what we're doing is we're reaching out to bloggers who have a collective target audience of the type of people we want to read this financial or listen to this financial audiobook. And we are literally offering those bloggers the ability to give 100 copies of the audiobook away to their audience. So what do we get out of that? We get the bloggers to feature the book to their entire audience in exchange for giving 100 copies away. And it costs our authors $0 to give it 100 copies away through Zoundy, which is incredible reach. You're basically using social media and blogging and networking for what its purpose is. So that's one example. Another really simple example is I have a speaker/author who really wants to raise her awareness in his specific demographic. She's a counselor and she wants to raise her demographic in the area that she works in. So when she goes to conferences, she takes a business card with her QR code of her audiobook on one side and the cover of it on the other, and she gives it away to people. Every time they download it at the conference, she captures that name and email of the person who's downloaded it. So it's a way for her to collect contact information of the core demographic that she's trying to reach. So in essence, Zoundy allows you to do almost anything you can think of. I drive these guys nuts because I keep coming to them with new ideas and say, can we make it do this? Can we make it do that? And the answer is, yeah, we can, but it's going to take some time. But really, that's in essence how it's different.
And Jared, that's great. And there's another quick thing is a lot of publishers use it for pre-order campaigns. So there's really no easy way to run a pre-order campaign. And that's basically when you're giving some a bundle of goodies away when someone purchases your book when it's released. And a lot of times the audiobook is listed first because it has the highest perceived value. It's most likely for people to get through it. So they list the audiobook, and as Dana alluded to, you're providing a SoundCloud link or a Dropbox link, Google Drive link. And it's not a good experience because it doesn't save your place. It's hard to find for the user. So the user is not apt to really see a lot of value there or get through it. And with Zoundy, the publisher knows that it's completely frictionless for the user. Within 45 seconds, they're listening to the book. They can even listen within the native web player if they don't want to download the app. So you're in listening very quickly, and the publisher gets that name, which is unique. So yeah, as a pre-order campaign, authors and publishers really like it to provide a better experience there.
Dana, I'm going to let you start this one. When you envisioned this, put this together, who were you envisioning should use Zoundy?
It's really authors who understand that their book is a lead magnet, that their book is a business card, that if they're speaking and speaking is their business, that having a QR code to get their audiobook is going to harvest the email and names of everybody who clicks that QR code and gets their audiobook. So it's, the an empowering tool for the author, whether they have a publisher or whether they're independently published or self-published, to control the book as a marketing tool for everything else that they're doing.
Yeah, and I want to piggyback off of that because Dana writes phenomenal nonfiction books, and he writes some really just outstanding titles, and he works primarily in that genre. As when I work with my fiction authors, it's the same thing in terms of lead magnet. We don't think of leads as in, stuff we want to upsell them other than other titles. But any fiction author will tell you who's had a level of success is it's a snowball of building up readership and devoted readership. So if I have an author that is planning on writing multiple fiction books or has written multiple fiction books, I say, hey, take that first one, make sure it's in an audiobook, give it away like crazy. You're going to build your listenership. You're going to have control of your listenership in terms of a list of readers that love you. And then guess what? Now you can build off of that and pitch them on buying your subsequent books. So the philosophy is the same in terms of building up your readership. That same philosophy can be used by publishers that want to use Zoundy as well. If they want to use some of their backlist or older titles, regardless of genre, give them away, market them, get them out to their target readership, collect a list of 50, 100,000 people that have downloaded it for free. Guess what? Now you have your own core list of people you can go out to with titles for sale. So the philosophy and the concept is the same regardless of genre.
Yeah, I'm thinking about this maybe a little bit differently as someone who has his own show, TV, radio, and podcast show, and also as a coach, and being more specific here, that I think that obviously, as an author, we could say all authors, but sometimes some authors don't think for me, I think it's a great coaching thing, because if I could put my book out there as a coach, then what happens is I've got something now that I can say, hey, listen to these chapters. You're going to get my philosophy, because my philosophy is going to come through in what I write. Right. So I think specifically as a coach, but then even as somebody who's a host of his own show, I think having a product like this that allows me to expand myself gives people an idea of how I think, what I do, and will maybe increase the number of listeners I can get into my show as an author who has his own show. So I think, I want people to kind of expand their mind around this, because I can certainly see and understand the benefits on everything that I do. And I think that's pretty cool for me in particular, since I got my tentacles in so many different things. Okay, so let's be a little bit more specific here on a few questions that we have. How can publishers with a large catalog of audiobooks effectively use Zoundy? Who'd like to take that one?
Jared.
Cory, you want to jump on that?
Sure. Yeah. There really isn't any place you can go to sort of build a page that shows bundles or shows all your books in one place that allows you to, say, run promotions on your backlist. So let's say a publisher loaded a large amount of their backlist and just started, doing very short-term promotions and giveaways, or giving away chapters, or as Jared said, cross-promoting. You can create an unlimited amount of promotions for each book. So if a publisher uploaded 10, 20, 50 books, they can take each of those books and create an infinite amount of promotion. So whatever ideas they have, maybe there's a book group. Let's give this away to book groups and let book groups read book one in a series. And then all the other books are available at Zoundy, but really you're promoting your books everywhere they're for sale, because audiobook listening and purchasing is it's contextual. Someone's if they have a credit to burn, they're maybe going to burn a credit. If they use a library site, they're going to use the library site. They may purchase at Zoundy, and if they do, it's the highest margin you're going to get. But you really aren't focused on, I'm going to push everybody there to buy things, you're thinking, how do I gain more exposure to our products and to our list? And that's what a publisher can do effectively with Zoundy.
And a publisher can also offer specialized content that's not offered anywhere else. So let's say, for example, you're a publisher of a New York Times bestselling author, and you want to sweeten the deal on a particular book by taking an interview with that author and putting it as the first track of the book, or having that author offer some discussion questions or discussion topics at the end. Look, you can't go and put that back into a print book that you've already have, 5,000 copies sitting in a warehouse somewhere. But publishers can be really creative in offering one-of-a-kind content to people to kind of incentivize them to download the book or listen to the book or purchase the book. It's a great way to ingratiate yourself with your audience. And I keep going back to collect the contact names of your audience, because these publishers sell through the same platforms that indie publishers do. They sell through Amazon, they sell through Barnes & Noble, they sell through all these platforms, which is great, but they never collect the information and they never know who's purchasing them. So they can't go back to the well and reuse that as a resource. Through our platform, we have that added bonus of a resource where if you interact with an audience through our platform, guess what? You now know who your audience is, which is invaluable.
And I think this is where you piggyback off of, how can Zoundy help an independent or indie publisher and author, right? I mean, because you're kind of leading into that as well, correct?
Yeah, I think an indie author will be more aggressive than a publisher many times, right? They have more reason to try a lot of different things. I think the impulse buy it can happen with a Zoundy link. If you limit, say, hey, for the next 2 days, this offer's available, and if you listen within the next 30 days, you can listen to my entire book for free. Those kind of things create urgency. And then at the end of it, you can price the book at the end of a promotion for sale at 50% off. So when the person doesn't get through the book, you offer them the book for sale at some discount. So it's ingenious to get someone in and give a short time frame for listening. And if they get through it, great. They might tell someone else. If they don't, they have the ability to purchase a book at a discount.
Is Zoundy a good fit for hybrid publishers?
It's a great fit for hybrid publishers. I mean, hybrid publishers are servicing authors like me and you. In many cases, they're professionals. Their audience has been willing to pay for services. They have a message that they're willing to pay to get out there. And whether they're doing that as their way of giving back or promoting what they've done because they're passionate about it, the hybrid publisher could hand over Zoundy to its authors, or it could run as an agency a Zoundy instance and help their authors for a fee promote each author's book with giveaways and promos and bonus content. All the things that we're talking about are tools that can be used in the hands of hybrid publishers. So we think they're a really important piece of the puzzle. They're very busy. We've had some discussions with several, and they're all dazzled. But it's a new tool, and almost at a hybrid publisher probably ought to be a tool that somebody really trains on, becomes an expert in, and manages as a piece of their economics for their authors.
Dana, you if you're not doing a radio show right now, you should be. You have golden pipes, brother.
Thanks.
Yeah, you should. Jay, you should listen to his audiobook.
Yeah, he reads his own audiobooks.
I have 2 audiobooks and a podcast. So
I do too. I did too, man. I did my own audiobooks and did this whole thing. But I got to tell you, those pipes are golden, brother. I'm just going to tell you that right now. So how would professional speakers best use Zoundy, in you guys' opinion?
I mean, I'll lead in and let everybody else chime in. But if you think of a professional speaker that would have brought books in back of the house, had a bunch of books for sale, you're hoping to carve off a couple of people and sell some books. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of friction. What speakers ought to be doing is putting their audiobook on Zoundy and putting a QR code on the bottom of all their slides, so the audience who's listening can grab that anytime they're up there speaking. And then they can take the people who go there and they can say, if you came here, you're getting this link to this free audiobook. you're going to know that they came because you're going to get their email. You can put them into a drip, give them bonus content, and then sell them something virtually. You can tell them that, you'll send them a book that's signed once they've purchased something that you're selling on Zoundy. So you have the giveaway, the sale. You can still sell the way you would back of the house. You can start giving away a business card that has the cover of your book and a QR code on one side and maybe your information on the other. So it's a good way to say to a potential paying conferences and companies, hey, here's my audiobook, check it out. And I'm going to give this to the people that I'm speaking to when I'm at your event that you're paying me $10,000 to speak at.
Yeah. We've had people use it with success, Jay, for a podcast tour. So when you're trying to book a bunch of podcasts and these podcasters don't know who you are, the best way to introduce them to your content is probably not sending them a print book, because we all have a lot of print books that we intend to read, want to read, but to send them the audio, if they can get in quickly and listen to some. As you said, they hear your voice, they hear your delivery, they hear your content, and the audiobook's more apt to get engagement is much higher, and it's more apt to get listened to. It's more apt to get finished. There's been some surveys that most audiobooks that get access get fully get finished. The people get all the way through the content, which is unique as a format.
And I just want to piggyback off of that and say bulk order fulfillment and specialty sales. So if a place is considering hiring you as a professional speaker to come in and speak to their audience, obviously offering them a complimentary copy of the audiobook for everyone in the audience is a huge incentive. Our platform allows you to direct fulfill. So let's say they say we're going to have 500 audience members. You create an individual promo for that particular event. You max it out at 500 downloads. You send them the link and they can disseminate it to everyone. So the ability to bolster the value of your speaking engagement is huge. No other platform allows you to kind of specialize direct fulfill to different places. On the other hand, let's say an organization wants, as a professional speaker, an organization loves your product and they want to give it to their new hires every single year. You can have a licensing agreement for a flat amount per year. They get an unlimited number of copies for their new hires. So there's lots of different ways you can leverage it as a speaker, as a professional, that you can't do anywhere else.
Very good. I do this show called A New Direction, and I read a book a week, and I interview, best-selling authors from all over the world on success and leadership. And I'll never forget, one of the things I did to add value to get authors when I originally started was, and I continue to do so, is I said, if you'll come on my show, I'll write you a book review and put it on Goodreads or Amazon or wherever. And it really helped me getting myself started. And I realized that these book reviews were so important. In fact, I think I had one author say that he would sleep with me if I would give him a book review, which I did not. It was comfortable on any level. So, but I said I will take a lunch. So how can Zoundy help me get more book reviews for my book if I'm an author?
Well, let me go back to the publisher example. What about running a reviewers program? So you engage a bunch of people who want to review books, and then you have several hundred people who are willing to review books from a particular publishing house. And then every time a new book comes in, you send it to that select list and give them access to the books. They don't have to review every single book, but they can pick and choose the ones that they want to do. But maybe there's a commitment for a book review a month. It's completely free for the publisher. And you have committed people, but it's a mechanism which you kind of need. The hard thing is, a lot of times, is how do I do it? Like, I know I need book reviews, but how do I make it easy for these reviewers? And there's another program that focuses on book reviews. It's a lot of friction to get in there. You got to be approved, and it's rather challenging, and it's expensive. And so there are ways to do it. We think our platform is the best for it.
I mean, I can give you a personal anecdote of how we go about getting those book reviews, and it's all about being able to do follow-up. And I'll talk about a somewhat competitor in the industry. So we're all familiar with KDP. You have your ebook up on KDP. You make it for you run a campaign, you make it free for 2 weeks, hoping a ton of people download it and leave reviews. Hoping. And you can tell your family and friends, and you can post about it on social media. And what you're dependent upon is you're dependent upon people seeing the promo, downloading the book, reading the book, and leaving a review. With, by the way, no ability to connect or follow up with those people. Let's take that same example and say, okay, I'm going to put a review promo up on. I'm going to create a review promo for my audiobook on Zoundy. I'm going to put it out on social media. I'm going to put it out through some bloggers that would love to give away free copies of it. I'm going to put it out through, friends and family social media. I'm going to reach out to everyone I can in every capacity I can to make them aware of this. The difference between that and the KDP model is the second anyone downloads your book, you now have their name and email. And I tell people this all the time. You have to ask for the review. You don't just give it to someone. You have to ask for the review. The challenge with KDP is you have no ability to ask. You have no ability to follow up. Well, guess what? Now let's say there's 200 people that have downloaded that book and opted in for you as an indie author. You can now email them and say, hey, thanks so much for downloading this. If you like it, please leave a review. You have the ability to connect with them. I mean, on a publisher level, Cory's absolutely right. That's a great way to establish a core group of reviewers. Well, guess what? If you're an indie author, now you have a core group of reviewers that leaned in on that first book, and you can go back to them, for your subsequent books. So it's a great tool to actually be able to continue to connect with people once they've downloaded your book.
Hey, can I piggyback on that, Jared? Because I talked to an author the other day, a top fiction author in a niche market, but well known. And she was telling me that she calls most of the reviews that she gets. She calls the person and reminds them that they said they would review the book. And I was surprised because she's a top author. She has hundreds of reviews, and she's on the phone calling people that she has on her own personal spreadsheet somewhere. And that's how she said she gets reviews. And it kind of shocked me, but just an anecdote to piggyback on your comment.
Yeah, I took my my book and put one of my books at 99 cents on as a Kindle, and I give away the audiobook, and I say, hey, you don't need to be a verified purchaser to review, so please feel free to review. But if you don't mind spending 99 cents, grab the ebook and review as a verified purchaser. And people feel like, hey, I'm not only giving them the audiobook, I'm telling them, spread the word, give the audiobook to anybody you know, and if you don't mind, pay 99 cents, and then I get a verified review out of it as well.
Very cool.
And you've been active on Twitter, like just hitting that over and over, Dana. I've seen that.
Yeah, this is exciting, guys. I'm just telling you, from my perspective, I feel like it's going to give juice to even some older books that I've written. I feel like I'm going to get some juice back, that I've written and done some audiobooks. That's kind of a real exciting thing to me. So, I mean, this is so cool. I got to ask the question. I know that cultivating your own digital mailing list is huge. We all know that. How can I use Zoundy to build my own listener list? We kind of edged into there. Who wants to handle that?
Well, I guess the question is the mechanics of it at this point are pretty easy. Someone who gets your book, whether you send them there, whether they find you because they've come to Zoundy to see someone else's book and then start looking at what else is interesting. You get a little Excel button you can download any day, an ongoing updated list of whoever has read your book. So it's as easy as that. At this point, you just take that list and drop it into your MailChimp or your HubSpot, whatever you're using. But that's sort of the mechanics of it. We will at some point have a button to API that into other software. But at this point, you just get an XLS and it's nice and tidy. But in terms of how you build a list, you think of this as a substitute for a landing page. You basically can say to somebody, get my free book here, and bring them straight there. You don't have to think about, am I going to convert them and convince them to give me an email address? So you create your ad copy or your email campaign to people and say, click this link, you're going straight into my book. The way we created Zoundy is that they can begin that experience immediately. So, they're there, but they are asked to give a name and an email address. And then they're given an email from us that just says, you'll get a better experience if you download the app, because then it will remember where you're at and all the bells and whistles. But, for us, it's about having a fairly frictionless way to go straight from whatever your top of funnel is to getting to the free audiobook.
I think it's important to mention, I think we're so familiar with the platform that sometimes we forget the powerful nuances of it. If you are an indie publisher or an indie author or major publisher and you have a Zoundy account, you subscribe to Zoundy, every title you have in the system, you can create an unlimited number of promos for that title. So if I'm an author with one book, I can create an infinite number of promos. So when it comes to creating lists, I know where those lists are created from. So if I want to run, and this is really important to a lot of authors and a lot of publishers, if I'm running an advertising campaign and I'm linking back to a Zoundy promo, well, I can run 20 different ad campaigns in 20 different platforms with 20 different promos simultaneously. So I know where it's effective. A lot of times we throw money at things and we either have to pay our web person to create a bunch of different landing pages to understand where each ad is coming in from, which becomes cost prohibitive and overwhelming, or I simply create a couple of different promos, for one for each ad or one for each activity I'm doing. It doesn't have to be advertising, it can be marketing. And I know where it's coming in from. Let's say I have 20 different bloggers that I'm having give away my audiobook for free. Each one of them can have an individual promo code, and I know which blog is getting the most traction. So when it comes to actually creating the lists, there's tons of different ways you can reach out. Let's say I'm interacting with nonprofits, same thing. I can figure out by creating individual promos for them, knowing where I'm getting the most traction from. And that's information is so valuable. And so it prevents authors and publishers from wasting a lot of money or energy on activities that don't really resonate. Hey, my author was on a radio show that's got 20 million listeners, but nobody downloaded the book. Hey, we were on some, seemingly podunk podcast with 5,000, but 2,500 people downloaded my podcast. Guess what? I'm going to put a lot more effort in there. It's never before have we really been able to quickly value the effort we're putting in different areas. Zoundy allows us to do that very, very quickly.
It's interesting because it's almost like you're reading my mind in these questions, because you kind of jumped right into the next question, Jared, which was, if I was an indie author with with more than one book, or a publisher that had a large catalog of authors or titles, how can I use Zoundy to cross-market titles and authors? And I feel like you're kind of leading into that question, or almost pretty much answered it.
Well, let's hear it. Dana's done a lot of his own work in this field. So Dana, what about you?
For me, I can take a list, for example. It depends on whether you want to cross-pollinate, like by giving away more, or you want to use one to sell another. So, for example, I have a book that's maybe not in as much need of reviews, and I want to sell it. I can say to everybody who's gotten the book I'm giving away, hey, I'm running a discount. You can get this other book that I've read. If you like my books, I'm giving you half off. You can get it here. So the ability to take multiple content and sort of cross-sell yourself is a big deal, or just sort of get your word out more. If everything's top of funnel, then you can just say, you've read this. Did you know that I have this other book in the platform? And here's a link to that book. And then I start creating a list in that book for who's read the book that I can use. If you're a hybrid publisher, I mean, especially if you're a hybrid with a niche, or an indie publishing house with a niche, your ability to sort of cross-pollinate all of your authors is inherent. I mean, you'll have a list per book. You can figure out who's on which list and how to offer them access to other books, whether you're just trying to sort of get people into serials, for example, give them the first in a series, give that away and then sell the others. And then at that point, certainly you can sell on Zoundy and you can keep a larger margin. But at that point, if you've gotten someone hooked on a series, you don't care whether they also go buy it on Amazon or Audible, because you just want to get people hooked into your series, right? And if you find that you have a series, you're a small publishing house, you can say, well, these people we know are good for this series as well. Then you can give the other authors within your publishing house the benefit of your promotion of one of your authors to some of the authors that you think are relevant.
Very cool. Guys, let me ask you this one. How can Zoundy be used to customize my audiobook content?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
So
I got an example for that. One of the things we haven't talked about is what about your VIP, your launch team? What about the people who are the core people that are going to help you get behind the book and promote it? Why not create something early for them that no one else gets? They get the book early, some content, maybe some bonus content that you personally add, a thank you, right? Some instructions about how you want them to promote the book. You're giving them something that no one else is getting. They're getting it early. They're not supposed to share it with anybody else. You're naming that VIP copy. You're telling them that they're important to you. So, this is a great way to incentivize those folks who have committed to help you up front.
Okay.
Yeah, we had go ahead, Dana.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, bonus content these days, any author that's a speaker has a microphone in front of them like you do, Jay. They're doing podcasts as a guest. They're doing podcasts as a host. They're speaking. They're on Zoom calls. So you can turn that microphone on and just record some fantastic content that you think is going to be unique and relevant, and then that becomes tracks that you just load as additional bonus content for the person who grabs your book for free.
One of the things in terms of bonus content that I've noticed with fiction authors is the readers and listeners love to know, like, the backstory behind a character, or what motivated, where did the story come from, all the questions that you would normally want to ask an author if you met them at, let's say, a writer's conference or something like that. Well, you can do a quick record with the author, have them answer that, and slide it right into your track. We're not waiting 20 or 30 days for it to go up on Audible or anything else. It's within 30 minutes, that new track is uploaded and ready for listeners. So going back to what Cory said about bonus content, it's an amazing way to be able to offer bonus content that they can't get anywhere else.
Cool. I got a question about media and Zoundy. So how can Zoundy be used to either leverage or better leverage media exposure? Who would like to go there?
I mean, let me touch on that and then invite the guys to chime in, because I really engage with media every day. And Jay, you're a podcaster. If you're looking at two authors and they're both on the same scale, they're both even on the scale to you in terms of quality of the book and your interest in them, but one of them says to you, hey, Jay, if you have me on your show, I'll also give you 100 copies of the audiobook to give away to your audience. Well, who are you going to go with? The one that's giving you the 100 copies to give away, right? Because it makes your listeners happy with you because you're giving them something for free, and it adds value to the entire experience. So one of the things I do with media now is I leverage the audiobook. If I am pitching my authors to a podcast, I give them the normal pitch. Here's the segment topic. Here's the value to your listeners, blah, blah, blah. Oh, and if you book so-and-so, he'll be sure to give you a code to get so your listeners can have 100 free copies of the audiobook. So you can leverage it that way. You can leverage it by offering to customize the content. You can turn around to a podcaster and say, hey, if you want to give me the recording of this, I can put it onto the audiobook and you can give this away with the actual interview as a customized piece of content. There's anytime you can offer media the ability to keep their audience happy and more engaged with you, it's going to be of value.
Cool. Anybody else want to jump on that too as well?
No, I think that's great.
We think that's great. Okay, awesome. All right, so here's a question for you, because I know this is something I try to do. How can Zoundy be used to engage and network with, like, bloggers, nonprofits, other groups that have existing audiences?
Well, I've seen this a lot with nonprofits who the founder has a book, and it's important for their key donors to just get it out to them, right? A lot of donors maybe don't know the whole story. They don't know the backstory, right? So this is a way for you to effectively make something free that could bring back a lot of value, right? Like getting a key donor more engaged, something like that. And we keep going back to the audiobook because the people, Jay, you opened with this, people have time for it. People are in the car, they're running, they're washing the dishes, they're walking the dog, whatever, they're falling asleep at night. The industry data tells us that most people listen to audiobooks while they're relaxing at home. What does that mean? It means that when they're doing other things, stuff they have to do, they're also listening. And so this is just a way for, say, a founder to tell their story, to tell about what they're doing, to get their key people more engaged.
Excellent.
So I do want to piggyback off that and just say, like when we're talking about from the other end of that, that's the way that someone who has an audiobook or wants to create an audiobook can engage with their existing audience. But if I'm an author and I think my book is, you know, a great fit for a particular nonprofit or organization, I can go to them and I can interact with them in a ton of different ways. I can go to nonprofit and say, hey, why don't we use this as a fundraising tool, right? Mm-hmm. If they want to be a flat fee of, you know, licensing fee of, you know, blank amount for, you know, 6 months worth of my audiobook, and they simply want to then be able to sell it to their donors or sell it as a way to raise money for their organization, they can use it that way. If they want to use it to build up people that might be interested and lean into what their organization is about, they can pay me as an author for a certain number of copies of it. They can give it away. And guess what? They can collect and make their own database of people that have leaned into that subject matter. We talked about this earlier. If it's an organization or a business that wants to use that audiobook to give away to their, maybe even to their employees, not necessarily to as anything other than making them feel more valued. Hey, you know what? I'm gonna gift you all a new audiobook every 4 months that you can listen to and enjoy, or 3 or 4 of them every 4 months. And there's a lot of different ways you can use the platform to be able to fulfill that and engage on so many different levels.
We've touched on this a little bit in some of the questions I've asked. I'm curious, maybe we can get a little bit more specific here. How can Zoundy be used to cross-market, say, if I have a product or service?
Well, Dana, I mean, I don't know if you want to go into the weeds on this, but you have LinkedIn courses, right?
Yeah.
And then do you mention those in your books at all?
Yes, I do.
So, why don't you talk about? I mean, there's a perfect example.
Well, you know, the flywheel that we're all trying to spin has these multiple components that include coaching or speaking or consulting, and we have courses, for example, that are pre-recorded that we may monetize. For example, I have a dozen courses on LinkedIn Learning, and while it's free for those that pay for LinkedIn Learning or have premium, you know, there is compensation. So it is a piece of my economics that I feel great about. And so I want to talk about that. Then I also take my audience. I only have about 10,000 followers on LinkedIn Learning, but I've had almost 1 million people go through my courses over the years. So I'm constantly posting, get a free copy of my audiobook, get a free copy of my audiobook, because I can't really communicate and treat the LinkedIn audience as a proper funnel, because I can't, you know, harvest that and nurture that any better than the platform allows me. So I can peel people off, get them the free audiobook, and then engage with them to sell them other things.
I love this. I love this aspect of it. The more I keep thinking about it, because I'm right with you here, Dana. You know, I think about the problem is I don't know who's downloading my book, right? Yeah. And I can't interact with them. And I would love to interact with them, because I would love to get some feedback from them. You know, what did you enjoy about the book? You know, and then because conversations are everything. You know, there was a study done, I think, by out at West Point, and they said, you know, anything can go viral with 5 people, right? If you get 5 of the right people, anything can go viral. And it's really was a cool study that they did in West Point as they were studying propaganda. For which is the purposes they were using it for, but it's really interesting that if I can be in contact with that people on a personal level, I have a better chance of anything that I put out there going more viral.
Yeah,
and I don't care what that is, and that to me is a huge benefit of Zoundy. You know, as I think about the way you guys have done this, so it's very, very cool. I got to go to this question. How can Zoundy be used to facilitate affiliate partnerships? Because I think we've touched on it. Maybe we could go a little bit more in detail here, but facilitate those affiliate partnerships.
Well, I mean, in one case, if you want an organization, even a business, to help you sell your product, or a blogger help you sell your product, it's the what's in it for them. I mean, there's really nothing in it for them. You can't create an affiliate relationship with a blogger based on an Amazon link very easily. Track the sales that came through them, then give them compensation for it and so forth. However, with Zoundy, if you turn around to a blogger and say, hey, look, this is going to be your customized link. We're going to know anybody that comes in through this that purchases the book, and we'll give you 50% on everything that sells. I mean, it's a pretty easy pitch at that point. All they have to do is put up a promo of your book, and they get value from it. So from a friction standpoint, we make the ability to communicate with influencers, bloggers, organizations, and so forth in terms of creating those affiliate relationships very, very easy. And it's somewhat limitless in terms of the types of people and organizations and platforms that you can reach out to do that. I mean, just think about social media influencers. If you partner with a social media influencer and say, hey, look, I'll give you a customized link. You want to, promote this once a week, or you want to promote this every once in a while. Anybody who comes through the link, you get half of it. It's easy money for both people, and it's a win-win situation. So there aren't, in terms of the audiobook world, there isn't really another way of doing that in a very frictionless manner.
Let's move to the next question here that I have, and we're down to our last few questions here. How can Zoundy, or can it be used to fulfill bulk order sales?
Right now, it is sort of a manual process. You have to email customer support, and we can provide permanent links for like a fee. But the one way you could provide, you could sell something, right? But if you're doing a giveaway, there's it's sort of like a manual process at this point. We'll probably look at switching that down the road.
Okay.
Jared, you're looking at. Go ahead.
Well, I look at it in two different ways. I mean, bulk order fulfillment. If someone wants, let's say someone wants 500 copies of my audiobook for whatever they want to use it for. If I'm an author, I strike a deal with them for the amount of that. They pay me. I send them a link for 500 downloads. So in that terms of bulk order fulfillment,
True.
We can do that instantaneously. It's very seamless.
True. You just need to keep your account going. If you're promoting it as a free permanent audiobook, you'd need to keep your account going perpetually. But that's fine. That is one way to do it.
Yeah.
There's another way that you can do it if you want to purchase permanent links as well. And we'll probably finalize that in the coming months, as we're always adding things to Zoundy.
But to Jay's question, this is kind of important for speakers, because a speaker might say, as part of this, the economics is I'm going to sell you 500 copies. And as Jared said, there's a means to do that within Zoundy. And there is this bulk order sales market that not very many people know about, that I think, if you're selling to large organizations as just a piece of your business as an author, you can't really deliver audiobooks in mass to a large multinational company that wants to buy 1,000 copies or 2,000 copies of your book. And as we've said, Zoundy gives you a tool to do that with audio, which is remarkable.
Yeah, it is really remarkable. How can Zoundy be used to engage sponsorship sales? I think it's an interesting question. Who would like to go there?
Yeah, I mean, I again, we lean towards the marketing questions, and I've done, I'll give you an example of something I've done. So we have a great YA crossover fantasy novel that we want to get into the hands of people. So we were able to identify sponsors that would potentially want visibility to the same target audience that would be listening to that book. And you go to one of those sponsors and you say, hey, we'll let you do a little infomercial for your business or for your product or for your company at the front and the back end of the audiobook as a customize that audiobook. And in exchange for that, you pay us X amount, and we'll give it to 5,000 target audience members, right? So if you want a sponsor to be able to sponsor that book, you can offer them the ability to have visibility in that audiobook. If it's a realtor, if it's a pediatrician's office, you're basically putting in a commercial for that company as a sponsor. Or you can just say, hey, this book is sponsored to you and brought to you by so-and-so, your local realtor, and you give it away, right? It really doesn't matter who the sponsor is. They get visibility in that book, and they can give it away however they want. Sometimes it's as simple as one of the things we did with a pretty large, Fortune 500 company is the CEO wanted to put a welcome message at the front of that to their employees. And so they recorded a message. We put it as the first track. They said, hey, I listened to this book. I loved it. I'm giving this to you all as a gift because blank, blank, blank. And they sponsored the purchase of that book for them. So it doesn't really matter who the sponsor is. The incentive you can give them is visibility to that audience. And you can take it one step further, depending on how many copies they're willing to sponsor, how much they're willing to pay. You can also offer to share the list with them, right? You can say, hey, here's the list of all the people that downloaded it. You can go do with it what you want.
Okay, you just said something here that's I don't want people to miss that are listening to your answer here, Jared. You just said that I could take my existing audiobook and I can add an upfront track to that to personalize it to a group or add a sponsorship. If I would say, hey, listen, thanks for reading Lessons from the Farm, Essential Rules for Success. This gift is given to you through Linda Craft Team Realtors in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I want to thank you for reading it. And by the way, when you're finished with the book, why don't you give me a review? It would be awesome. Whatever I might say there. So you're saying I can create that post book if I upload to Zoundy. Is that correct?
Yes. You can do it. Yeah. So every campaign, think of it this way. You upload your book. Once you upload your book, you can create as many individual promos as you want for it. So if you're doing the Linda Craft promo for sponsor promo, that's a standalone. You can decide who gets that. It's not in the, it's not in the main library for download, but you can designate who you're going to pitch that to and who you're going to give it to. And you can absolutely do that. You can do that as many times as you want, and you can customize any way you want.
It's like you're making multiple versions of your book for particular reasons and purposes and audiences.
Well, I'm thinking about it maybe a little bit differently here. I'm thinking I could leverage Linda Craft to purchase X number and then say, hey, listen, I'll give you this promo if you'll allow, I'll put your name on this and I'll promote this book to my audience. Would you be willing to pay X number of dollars?
That's the concept.
To promo the book. So now all of a sudden, and I can do it relatively cheaply, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be.
Jay, let me give you a great example. You've gone to a lot of conferences, right?
Sure.
And you've seen when you go from the Carney booths, all the booths that are there, they have all the widgets and doodads they give away. They give away the pens, they give away the stress balls, they give away this. What if they had a business card that simply had the picture of the book on one side and free audiobook and the QR code? They give that away instead. And what if that's your book? And the reason you've targeted these people is because you have the same core audience. So they're able to give something of value away. Say, hey, enjoy this free audiobook from blankety blank company. And then you can turn around to them and say, not only are you able to give this away, not only will we let you do an audio track that we'll put at the front or the back of it, whatever you want, but we'll also give you the list of everyone who's downloaded it. And you've spent, what, $1,000 on your stress ball globes? Why don't you give us $750 instead, and we'll just give this to you? And it's the cost of some business cards.
Yeah, I think it's I love that. What a great way for us to be able to maybe make a little extra money, because we all know that we're not making a ton of money off of books sales. Let's be honest here. How can I use Zoundy to create non-traditional retail sales opportunities? I guess that's what we just said almost, but I'll let you guys come up with some other ideas that we haven't thought of.
Well, and again, I'm sorry to jump in on these, but again, these are things that I've been doing. So let's think about bulk order sales and sponsorship sales as their own individual categories. So too is non-traditional retail. So you've written a book on healthy eating. What are some non-traditional retail outlets that would love that book? Whole Foods, yoga studios, fitness clubs, all these different places that would be great. Well, take that business card as an example. They can either give it away, or they can purchase them from you and sell them for $1 a piece or $5 a piece or $10 a piece, that audiobook on healthy eating, healthy lifestyle, what have you. They can turn around and make it a member benefit. They can purchase access to that book from you as the author, and they can turn around and say, hey, as an added member benefit, because you're part of our yoga studio, here's a free copy of an audiobook on healthy eating. So now your books can penetrate traditional retail outlet stores, either even through their online apps, because everybody has their online apps for those, those places now. You can penetrate digitally, you can penetrate physically into those stores that you would never otherwise have access to. Those stores love it because they're able to sell something that's relevant. They're able to maybe give a nice added member benefit or purchaser benefit. Hey, sign up for a 6-week program at our yoga studio and you get a free copy of thus and such on, a meal a day to lose weight or whatever it happens to be. And you can do this with any outlet. Let's say it's let's say it's a book on hiking. Let's say it's a book on outdoor activity. REI, you can partner with REI. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can network and have your book be sold through non-traditional retail outlets other than just Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and the other obvious traditional bookstores.
Love that. Dana, I'm going to start with you how are listeners able to listen to the audiobooks from Zoundy?
Well, you can listen in any web player. So the website on a computer device, a website through your phone, but we have an Audible-like app I'm sorry to say, because their app isn't that great. We think we built a better app. We've spent over 20 years in audiobook technology, and one of our partners from 20 plus years ago is still our partner and our CTO in this. So we have a really elegant player that delivers a great experience, remembers where you are in your books, and all of that. So your ability to experience the book should, feel like the experience that you really want it to be. You can download and listen on the go without using bandwidth or data. So it's easy. And if someone who doesn't like apps just wants to listen in a web interface, then it works that way as well.
And the app's available both for iPhone and Android. Correct?
Yep.
Right.
The Zoundy app. In fact, your listeners can just grab it and start listening to whatever any of our current authors that are in there, like me. You can grab the King's Fly Swatter for free. Listen to my latest book. And just go to go to your app store and look for Zoundy, Zoundy.
It's a great book, by the way. Phenomenal.
It really is.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. So, yeah.
Say the name of the book again.
The King's Fly Swatter.
The King's Fly Swatter. I love the title.
It's over your left shoulder, Dana.
Is it there? Okay. Is it that book right there, Dana? Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, that's awesome. Guys, last 2 questions. I promise I have no more than 2 questions. How can people like audiobook narrators, editors, and hybrid publishers become affiliates? Cory, do you want to go there?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we have an affiliate program. You can sign up. It's very easy. We're very generous. So you can find that information on the website with how we share revenue. We think the offering's compelling. So we believe that, audiobook narrators and editors and people who offer publishing services can be successful with this and do probably better with this program than many others that they might come across, because we believe conversion rates will be high, because pretty much every author I talk to, once you talk to them for a while, they start coming up with their own ideas about how to use the platform. We've spent an hour talking about our ideas, but Jay, you've continually come up with, well, I'm thinking about it this way. I want to do this with it. And that's very common.
It's very, very cool. Yeah. The more I hear you guys talk about it, the more my, gears in my head are just turning like crazy. As a matter of fact, it's hard for me to concentrate on what I'm doing here because I'm thinking about the possibilities going forward. Last question. I'm going to start with you, Jared, but I want to hear all 3 of your thoughts on this. Guys, you clearly have put a lot of time and thought into this platform. It's appreciated. It sounds amazing. So starting with you, Jared, why do you think audiobooks are going to continue to grow in popularity? And then I'd like to hear the other 2, Cory and Dana, your thoughts on it too as well.
Well, honestly, I'll just reiterate a couple of things you said. Number one, you can consume them 4 to 5 times faster than the average person can read. So you can go through more books. You can use them when you are not, when your eyes are busy doing other things. So you can do them while you're driving, traveling, busy work, whatever it happens to be, cooking, you can listen to your audio and enjoy the process. It's quick and seamless. It's instantaneous. So you can have that book immediately. It's the cost of production is getting less and less every single year. So it's becoming more accessible to the indie author, more accessible to the publishers to produce them. It's very green, right? We're not worried about shipping. We're not worried about storage. We're not worried about the cost of printing. There's so many different reasons, but the biggest, probably the biggest statistic you gave early on is the highest concentration of listeners right now between that age of like 18 and 44-ish. Guess what? That's going to continue. Those listeners are going to continue. That is going to continue to expand, right? So I always tell people the book industry is very similar to the music industry. If you told, oh gosh, I don't want to age myself now, but 25 years ago, when you go into a Sam Goody to buy a CD or a cassette, and it's like, if you told people, hey, this is all going to be digital and these stores are going to be gone in the next 10 years, people are like, no. And people still fought it. But I mean, unless you're a connoisseur of like records and things like that, the overwhelming majority of music now is consumed digitally. And it's going to be the same concept with books. Print books aren't going away. Ebooks aren't going to go away. They'll still be available. But the majority of people that consume books will be consuming them via audio, at least in my very strong opinion. What about you guys?
I'll piggyback on that. We're bringing in new readers. They're actually listeners, but they're thinking of themselves as readers. So millennials weren't listening to audiobooks at all 5 to 7 years ago, and now they're far and away the highest consumers of audiobooks. If you have a book targeted at millennials, it's likely 70 to 80% of your unit sales will be audio. So we're already seeing that. Another example is you look at some of the Nordic countries, the listening rates. I think Storytel, I think 60+% of adults have a Storytel account. So imagine 60% of adults are paying for an audiobook streaming account in that country. So they're further than us. And that's why we see there's actually a stats I've seen that they think that audiobook sales will be 30 billion by 2030. So what's that, a 5x? So we believe it's going to continue to grow, and this is going to be a dominant, if not the dominant format. People still value print. Print is awesome. We all want to read more. We want to highlight. I read and listen a lot. So, there's not even cannibalization sometimes. I'm buying multiple formats. I need all of them if it's an important book for me. So, I mean, audio it's not going to usurp and take over everything, but it's going to become more and more important, we believe.
Dana?
Yeah, almost everybody that I talk about books with, if I ask the question, do you read? And they look at me like I'm crazy. No, I don't. I listen. Of course I don't. You mean like read a book, on a Kindle or in paper? Nah, I have some old books and maybe one by the bedstand, but people really want the ability to control their time in ways that they don't have to sit and look at a book, and it's increasing. Maybe it's because we're distracted. Maybe it's just a way to cram, multiple things into an activity. You're going to drive, you want to accomplish something. You're going to fly, you're going to accomplish something. And I also think that there is an easier fast forward. If you're ever reading a book and you're like, I like it, and I don't want to let it go yet, but you start turning pages fast, you just speed it up on an audiobook and you process it faster. And sometimes you really feel like, I really want to get this advice, but I don't want to be patient about it. So, our app, as anybody's app should, lets you speed it up. You can speed, if you're watching this podcast on YouTube, which you probably have, Jay, you can speed it up and get through it faster if you want to. I just think it's the way people want to consume, and it's going to continue to grow.
Guys, this has been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed having you here. It's so much great information. Before we wrap up, I always have to ask this. Is there a question that I should have asked that you thought of in this time that we've had together that maybe you would like to answer? If there is one, what would that be? And then secondly, if you don't have one, how would you like to each wrap this up as we talk, first of all, this brilliant, I think it's brilliant, my words, this brilliant platform, Zoundy. So I'm gonna let you go. Jared, I'll start with you if you want to start there.
I'll just wrap it up by saying that it sounds silly, and it'll be a quick short story, but Zoundy, my involvement in Zoundy, I think was extremely organic and important to tell very quickly. I had an author who had a memoir who actually shopped and tried to find a couple of narrators, couldn't find one that fit, and she decided to do it herself. I found Cory. He and I happened to live about 20 miles apart from each other. I found Cory's studio because it came highly recommended. I didn't know him from a hill of beans, and I called a company, set up a schedule, brought my client in to do the recording to the studio. And while she was being well treated by, the director and the sound person, and she had never narrated before, but I felt like I was putting her in good hands, I stuck around, and Cory said, "Hey, you want to go grab a cup of coffee?" He and I started talking. We had never met before. And he said, "Hey, so what do you do?" And I said, "I do book marketing, blah, blah, blah." He said, "Well, what do you feel about audiobooks?" And I told him I was a huge proponent of audiobooks, but I felt like I was pounding my head, against the wall because I was so limited in what I could do with them, but I saw the value in them. And he said, "Well, let me tell you about something." And he told me about, the very, very, original kind of version of what Zoundy has now become. And I said, "That's awesome. It would be great if it could do." And I started listing a huge wish list of things that it could do. And he goes, "Let's have a deeper conversation about that." So they brought me in to this project because I market books and because I need this for my authors, and I saw the value in this for them. So I just want to leave it by saying, look, if Zoundy never took off, I would still use it every single day. Because it's of huge value to me as a professional book marketer for and on behalf of my clients in so many different ways. So it's kind of one of those, I'm not only, a co-creator in this, but I'm also a customer. I use this thing every single day, and I'm a huge firm believer in it.
Cool. Cory?
I don't have any. It was a great interview, Jay. No additional questions I would have asked. I thought you did a phenomenal job. I think for me, we need to stop putting control and power in the hands of these global, multinational, massive organizations that don't have our best interests in mind. And that's why we're here. We're disruptors. We want to put more tools in people's hands. We don't mind having a target on our back. We want to help authors to take more control over their books, over their promotions, over their strategies. And we actually provide a pretty detailed marketing plans as well, step by step of how to, best practices, how do the big publishers launch audiobooks. Only the big publishers don't have these tools. So we actually provide the tool to do it all. So that's, I guess, the last thing I'll say is that we want to help. We're the little guy, but we're providing a big service.
Awesome. Dana?
Yeah, I agree, Jade. Great time talking to you. Thanks for fleshing out a lot of these things in nice bite-sized pieces that, we tend to overwhelm people when we try to tell them about the product, and you can feel overwhelmed. I'll say this, that Jeff Goins, who helped me with some of the work leading up to my last book, as a ghostwriter and sort of publishing consultant and an author coach, he said, your book deserves to have a life, and it's up to you to give it that life. Like so for those that are listening, that are authors, that are in the publishing and independent publishing business, like we aren't just waiting around for some publisher to make our book famous. It is in our hands. And what I love about this tool is that I think probably anything in the market, there's nothing that empowers us as authors to give our book life, to give it the best chance at a life of its own, right? To breathe life into it. That takes several years to reach the right number of reviews, the right number of readers, to have a certain minimal virality. And how are you going to do that? Like it's up to us. I think everyone's got to own that. And how else are you going to do it? And that's why I'm excited about Zoundy.
Awesome. Guys, stay with me here for just a second as we wrap up the show. Folks, this is the show. It's Zoundy, Zoundy. I'm telling you, if you're an author or a listener, this is the place where you want to start listening now. Find it on your app, whether it's iPhone or Android. Go look it up. Just Zoundy. You can find it. They have a Facebook page. They have other pages that you can find so much more information. Just start listening. Authors, it's time to make the change. I'm one of them. I'm doing it. I'm telling you, it's going to be worth every minute that you spend doing it. So take advantage of it now. Listen, you've been a great audience. I know you had a lot of choices. You chose us. Thank you so much for doing that. As I say to you all, everyone, everywhere, you know what that is? Ciao, everybody.